王蝶神奇而迷人的迁徙。
Few insects have captured our imagination like the monarch butterfly. Their migration is one of the most iconic wildlife spectacles in North America, but they are also one of the best environmental indicators we have of the health of our ecosystems. And they have been in decline for the last 40 years. So they might be telling us a bigger story, a story about our relationship with the natural world. Every year, these amazing insects undertake one of the most extraordinary journeys on this planet. It takes from 3 to 5 generations of monarchs to complete the whole migration. And it starts in Mexico, in the spring, when the monarchs that spend the winter there travel back north to lay their eggs. So, the first and second generation of monarchs are born and remain in the USA, and they live up to 6 weeks, more or less. But most migratory monarchs belong to the third and fourth generation. And they emerge in the late summer, early fall, when the days start to get shorter, and it's cooler, and they feel it, and they undergo a hormonal change in their bodies called the diapause. And this puts their mating instinct on hold.
Put their mating instinct on hold.
这个知识点的含义是指动物在某种情况下暂时停止繁殖行为。这种表达方式常见于口语中。
And they live longer then. This super generation will live up to 9 months, and they will complete the trip to Mexico, 3,000 miles, to a place where they have never been before. Because remember, they are the great-granddaughters of the butterflies that left in the spring. How they do it, how they find the exact same location remains a mystery. Especially if we consider that the sanctuaries, the forests they are looking for, are located only on 12 isolated mountaintops in central Mexico. And these are the perfect conditions for the monarchs. It is cool and moist in high elevations. But for years, scientists have been trying to answer the same question. How do they exactly find their way? There are many hypotheses. Some say it has to do with geomagnetism. There are evidences that they use visual cues from the landscape, the ridges of the mountains. There's even theories about the odor of the pheromones of previous butterflies that were there the year before. But the truth is that we don't know exactly, and they are continually, actively researching this topic. Physiologist Christine Merlin discovered that the monarchs use their antenna as part of a very sophisticated solar compass. And researchers from the University of Iowa are using this radio tracker to monitor the short-range movement of the monarchs when they feed. But this thing, as you can imagine, is very cumbersome. You cannot track the long-distance migration of a monarch with this. Until recently. A team from University of Michigan is developing what promises to be a breakthrough technology.
Breakthrough technology.
这个知识点的含义是指一种新颖、创新的技术或方法能够带来重大进步或突破。这种技术通常具有革命性的影响力。
Ultralight sensor that combined with an algorithm will, for the first time, be able to track the single path of one monarch when they make it to Mexico, which is very exciting.
Make it to.
这个知识点的含义是指到达某个地方，通常用于描述旅行或运动等活动。例如 when they make it to Mexico, which is very exciting.
But often, for these complex problems, the best and most efficient solutions are the simplest ones. We have been tagging monarchs for 30 years. We use these stickers that are very light, and they contain coded information and information about their origin. And this is how we discover where the monarchs were spending the winter in the 70s. And today, it continues to be one of the most popular environmental educations in North America, with volunteers having tagged more than 2 million butterflies in 30 years. Now, all these challenges that we face to track the monarchs are nothing if we compare them to
face-to-face.
这个知识点的含义是指直接面对、直率地与人交谈或相处。惯用法是在正式场合中使用。
What the monarchs themselves have to face throughout their long journey, especially starting in the prairies of North America. or at least what is left of them, because every year we are losing 1 million acres of prairie, being transformed into land developments and agricultural fields. And in the 90s, this problem got worse because the widespread use of herbicides combined with genetically modified crops created a new problem. They basically wiped out the native grasses from the fields, including
Wiped out.
这个词组的意思是完全消灭或毁灭某物。例如，他们基本上把原生的草从田里抹平了。
the milkweed. And the milkweed is the host plant of the monarchs. That means they need it to lay their eggs and to feed their hungry caterpillars. Without milkweed, the monarch population started to collapse. Now, our monarchs will continue their journey south, and they will have to face new threats, like roadkill that kills 3% of monarchs every year, or even light pollution from big cities that confuses them. It alters their patterns of sleep. But they will endure and eventually will reach Mexico. Aha, a last surprise, deforestation. Deforestation makes them more vulnerable to climate change. And as many of you know, climate change has many faces. Droughts, heat waves, or even snowstorms like the one you are seeing in this picture have become the major challenge for the monarchs in the short term. So I have to ask you that don't let this beautiful illusion of plenty fool you, because
Don't let this beautiful illusion of plenty fool you.
这个句子使用了一个典型的美国英语口语表达方式 illusion of plenty， 意为美好的幻觉或假象。它通常用于警告人们不要被外表上的富足所迷惑。
the monarchs are in serious trouble. But there's also good news. There's many people trying to protect them. Working with the local communities in Mexico has been essential to control the deforestation rates. Farmers are working with conservationists, and they are using drones to analyze vast tracts of fields in search of milkweed. Because the science is very clear. All the monarchs need is their habitat back, and we can do that by planting milkweed and by planting native grasses with flowers. That's why thousands of citizens along the migratory route are turning their backyards into habitat for the monarchs.
Backyards into habitat.
这个知识点的含义是指将个人或家庭的后院转变为自然保护区或栖息地。
Even small parks in big cities like Chicago can help, because these are like gas stations, pit stops for the monarchs when they travel. And as you can imagine, farmers play an essential part. These strips that you see in the picture are called prairie strips and
Prairie strips.
Prairie strips 是一种在田地中植入的草木，用于吸引昆虫和保护土壤。这种做法可以减少农药使用、保水和提高作物产量。
strategically located into areas of the field to attract pollinators, but they
Strategically located into areas of the field.
这个短语表明了在田地中植入草木的位置选择是有策略的，目的是吸引昆虫和保护土壤。
also protect the soil and conserve the water, so they
Protect the soil and conserve the water.
这个短语表明了草木除了吸引昆虫外，还可以保护土壤和保水。
benefit the farming. And all I can say is they work, because the only pair of mating monarchs that I
The only pair of mating monarchs.
这个短语表明了在田地中发现了一对正在交配的皇冠蝴蝶。
was able to photograph during this story was during a visit to one of these prairie strips in Iowa. It will be the offsprings of these butterflies that in subsequent generations will complete the cycle and make it
It will be the offspring of these butterflies that in subsequent generations will complete the cycle.
这个句子表明了皇冠蝴蝶的后代将完成生命周期。
back to Mexico. And here they will be receiving high honors. For the Mazahua people in Mexico, the monarchs are the souls of their ancestors, and the Day of the Dead in November the 1st honors this tradition. And as you can see, monarchs have become the undisputed pop icon of this celebration. Now, our monarchs now continue their life cycle in an alien world. Everything is different for them. They have never been here. They are tired. They huddle together. So the first days of the season, they are really vulnerable.
I have spent the last 10 days doing the same thing in the morning. They are getting so close to the branches I want. A ver si la pillo. Hay dos. I think I have it. For the first time in many days.
By many days, I mean 20 days, but I did get the shots that I needed. Thank you. Now, as new waves of monarch make it to Mexico, the branches soon fill up with clusters, and it is now when Dr. Green and his team will travel to Mexico, and they will try to locate a signal from that sensor they installed earlier. They need just one signal that can...
Just one signal.
这个短语表示只需要一个东西或信息就可以解决问题。例如 They need just one signal that can answer some of the questions. 他们只需要一个信号就可以回答一些问题。
And answer some of the questions that we have about the migration. I, as a photographer, I needed one monarch too, just one, but from a very different perspective.
You see
From a very different perspective.
这个短语表示从一个完全不同的角度或观点来看待问题。例如 I, as a photographer, I needed one monarch, just one, but from a very different perspective. 作为一名摄影师，我需要一个皇家蝴蝶，但从一个完全不同的角度。
this tree that is behind me, and it's packed with monarchs. So if you get to see what I'm doing, there is this nice pattern. There's always one late monarch that tries to find the spot half an hour later than everyone else, and that's what I'm waiting for. The flashy orange butterfly in a texture of roosting monarchs. So we'll see.
So I would be that late monarch. 20 years chasing monarchs, and I cannot get enough of this kind of images. They are...
Get enough of something.
这个词组的含义是指对某样东西感到满足或喜欢到无法再接受更多。